Let's jump right into this explainer. Imagine someone who lived way before light bulbs, telephones, or the internet, but still somehow designed the exact economic engine running today's massive tech giants and crazy complex supply chains. We're talking about Adam Smith. He is literally the father of modern economics and really the architect of modern economic thought. And his insights, they go way, way beyond just crunching numbers on a ledger. We're going to see how his ideas basically rewired our entire understanding of global markets and human progress, laying down a foundation that completely flipped the script on modern history.
So to really get into this, we have to ask ourselves a pretty fundamental question about the systems we deal with every single day. Who truly built the modern economy? I mean, think about it. When we participate in global markets, when we buy a smartphone or trade stocks, we're operating inside a framework that definitely wasn't just born overnight. It was meticulously designed to make sense of human exchange. Understanding the mind that built this framework lets us peek right behind the curtain of capitalism to see the gears actually turning. Moving into Section 1, the Curious Scottish Scholar, Early Life and Education.
Born in Scotland back in June 1723, Adam Smith didn't just pop up as this fully formed economic genius, right? He actually started out as a deeply curious learner. He had this insatiable hunger for knowledge that led him to study moral philosophy. And that specific detail is absolutely crucial, because even as he evolved into a hugely influential philosopher and professor later in his career, he never lost that philosophical lens. Actually, he wasn't trained as a finance guy running models. He was a philosopher trying to figure out human nature. His roots in exploring ethics and behavior became the absolute bedrock for everything he'd later write about money, labor, and trade.
And that is exactly why he's remembered as a transformative thinker who reshaped how we understand global markets. Before Smith, the whole worldview on economic prosperity was stuck in this super rigid system called mercantilism. Basically, back then, nations thought wealth was just a fixed pie. They literally believed the only way a country could get richer was by hoarding gold and silver and completely restricting trade, like a massive zero-sum game. But Smith, he cut right through that noise. He introduced a completely new paradigm, arguing that wealth isn't just a shiny pile of gold locked in a vault, but rather the total value of goods and services a society creates. He proved to the world that free trade actually expands the pie for everyone.
Which brings us to Section 2, Morality Meets Market Mechanics, Landmark Publications. Now, this is a fascinating paradox. A lot of the time, we think of economics as this cold, calculated science, driven purely by ruthless efficiency and profit margins. But Smith saw it so differently. He spent his time comparing human morality directly alongside the practical mechanics of national wealth. He was obsessed with figuring out how our internal moral compasses and natural human empathy interact with our drive to improve our own material conditions. He understood a vital truth that, honestly, we kind of forget today. You literally cannot effectively understand markets without deeply understanding the messy, complex human beings operating inside them. So let's break down some of those practical mechanics he talked about. First up is the division of labor. This is all about separating tasks to drive massive efficiency and economic prosperity. To really grasp how revolutionary this idea was at the time, you gotta look at his famous pin factory example. He noticed that if one untrained guy tried to make a metal pin totally from scratch, drawing the wires, straightening it, cutting it, making the head, he'd be lucky to make one single pin a day, maybe 20 if he worked himself to the bone. But if you divide that labor into highly specific tasks across 10 specialized workers, they don't just make 200 pins, they crank out tens of thousands of pins in a single day. It is mind-blowing. And this simple realization became the primary engine for the mass production we see everywhere in our industrialized societies today. Then, working right alongside the division of labor, we have market competition. Smith saw this as the driving mechanical force essential for trade and the functioning of global markets. If division of labor is the engine, market competition is the invisible hand on the steering wheel. That's probably his most famous insight, actually. The idea that individuals just pursuing their own self-interest unintentionally end up benefiting society as a whole. Because producers have to compete for your dollars, they're naturally pushed to create better, cheaper stuff. It's the friction of this competition that regulates trade. It's the exact reason you can walk into a local grocery store right now and effortlessly grab coffee from Colombia or apples from Washington, all without some central planner giving the orders. Let's head into our final part, Section 3, a timeless global legacy, an enduring blueprint. Beyond all those fiscal theories, his legacy is deeply anchored in three things: logical reasoning, social empathy, and the pursuit of knowledge. That combo right there is the absolute secret sauce to why he's still so relevant. He used intense logical reasoning to untangle the crazy complexities of international trade, but he constantly balanced it with social empathy. He saw the human element, the potential risks for the working class, the massive societal impacts, and driving all of that was his relentless pursuit of knowledge. That unique blend of rigorous logic and deep empathy is exactly what elevated him from just being a guy who watched commerce happen to a true visionary whose ideas transcend centuries. And because of that rock-solid foundation, his architectural blueprint for the global market is incredibly active today. It's literally the foundational curriculum for students and policymakers worldwide. I mean, anytime modern governments debate free trade agreements, or argue over international tariffs, or try to figure out antitrust laws to keep market competition fair, they are basically just arguing over concepts Adam Smith defined. Whether you're a freshman walking into Econ 101 or a top-level government minister drafting sweeping financial policy, his ideas are still absolutely required reading if you want to understand how the levers of wealth actually move. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a pretty big question to chew on. How do Smith's timeless insights into human progress continue to shape the future of our global markets? Remember, he wasn't just some dusty economist talking about 18th century mercantilist wealth. He was documenting the very nature of human progress and cooperation. So the next time you participate in the global economy, whether you're starting a business, investing in a startup, or literally just buying a cup of coffee, remember that you are playing a part in a beautifully complex, centuries-old system of human morality and market mechanics, a dynamic system first clearly mapped out by a curious Scottish scholar. Thanks for joining me for this deep dive, and definitely keep questioning the architecture of the world around you.